morning, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Norma Tregurtha, and I work for the ISEAL Alliance. The objective of my presentation this morning is to introduce you to the ISEAL Alliance and our suite of credibility tools, as well as to outline their relevance to the PCF community. So firstly, I'm going to talk a little bit about the ISEAL Alliance. We're going to cover how the ISEAL Alliance is dealing with the issue of climate change and product carbon footprinting. I'm then going to talk a little bit about how ISEAL understands and interprets the concept of credibility. And then I'm going to touch on our assurance code, which we are in the process of developing. So firstly, who and what is the ISEAL Alliance? Briefly, ISEAL is a not-for-profit membership organization. Our members are all leading social and environmental standard systems who've come together to promote and improve voluntary standards. As an organization, our strength lies in our convening power, our ability to bring people together. We are also able to offer our members a range of capacity-building tools, and as well as governance. ISEAL plays a very important governance function through the application of our codes of good practice. Who are the members of the ISEAL Alliance? We have 9 members that are in full compliance with the ISEAL membership criteria. And then we have 20 newer members who have all joined the ISEAL Alliance and have committed themselves to demonstrating compliance with our codes within the next 2 years. So this is the whole membership of the ISEAL Alliance, and as you can see, it covers a diverse range of sectors as well as a diverse range of issues. Before I get to the heart of my presentation, I thought it might be useful to talk a little bit about the ISEAL Alliance, the issues of climate change that our members are facing, and how this links to the product carbon footprinting world. Well, within the ISEAL Alliance, you see a great diversity in approaches to climate change. At the one extreme, you have members like the Roundtable on Sustainable Biofuels, who have integrated a comprehensive product carbon footprinting methodology into their standard. Then you have other members such as Rainforest Alliance, who have developed a climate add-on module. This module doesn't yet include a carbon footprinting unit, but they're looking at different options. Then the bulk of ISEAL members at this stage are engaged in what I would term field-level research projects, where they're testing the different options around product carbon footprinting. In most cases, these projects were initiated at the behest of buyers, but increasingly, the standards community is recognizing that if it doesn't address carbon issues head-on, it will lose credibility. With this as background, the Secretariat had put together at the end of last year our climate engagement strategy. At the heart of that strategy is a commitment to trying to build consistency across the membership as to how we undertake product carbon footprinting analysis. We hope to launch a series of pilot projects where we test what methodologies are most appropriate for us as a movement. And we're also looking at and this is really the heart of my talk, around how the voluntary standards movement and the product carbon footprinting community, what lessons and tools can we share? In the case of coffee, there's a process at the moment to look at developing product category rules, and ISEAL members have agreed to become involved in this process, and we're hoping to see if ISEAL's standard-setting code could be used as a potential blueprint around how to do inclusive product category rule development. Okay. So before I go further, I think it's often, you keep hearing me use the term voluntary standard systems. And why do I use the term system? I use it because for us, the standard is more than just its principles and criteria. It includes verification, capacity building activities, traceability, communications. So it's important to understand it holistically. And I talked about ISEAL's notion of credibility. ISEAL's idea of credibility is really defined by our codes of good practice. To date, we have 3 codes on the table. We have our standard setting code, and this is really based on WTO organization rules. It's around how you can guarantee openness, transparency, multi-stakeholder participation when designing voluntary standards. We then have our impacts code. This is a new code that was finalized in June last year, and this is really about how do you identify, well, how do you go about measuring the impact that standard systems are delivering. And the last code, and this has just begun its development process, is our assurance code, and I'll discuss that in a little bit more detail. So this just illustrates where in our standard systems all our codes are focused. So you see at this stage we've got most areas covered. All right, so let me talk a little bit about our assurance code. The assurance code, the goal here is really to improve the effectiveness of certification and other assurance tools in contributing to positive social and environmental impacts. So what are we hoping to achieve in developing this assurance code? Well, we're hoping to develop a framework that will deliver consistent assurance for social and environmental standard systems. We hope this code will enshrine examples of best practice and draw attention to innovation in assurance. We're also hoping that it will build a shared understanding at a global level of what good practice really looks like. And lastly, we see it as a very, very important tool for voluntary standard systems to simplify assurance and at the same time improve coordination in its delivery. And this is really critically important because, and we'll talk about this a little later, is that cost of certification is a major barrier to expanding or scaling up standard systems. I think it's really important to acknowledge that ISEAL does not plan on replacing ISO standards with respect to assurance. To the contrary, we believe our assurance code builds on existing ISO standards, and it can really be thought of as a sector-based supplement for social and environmental standards. So typically, our code development process begins with fundraising, and I'm pleased to say when it comes to the assurance code, that bit has been completed. We then launch 2 parallel processes. We convene typically a technical drafting team, and at the same time we develop our multi-stakeholder collaboration engagement process. At the moment, we've just started with background research to inform the key questions. And as I said, these processes are long and engaging. They typically take up to 2 years. We're at the start of the process, and I encourage everyone in this room to have a look at what ISEAL's planning to do and see how and where you can participate. In terms of the background research, we've had quite a lot of interaction and engagement with our members around what they feel needs to be covered in the assurance code. The single biggest issue is how can we reduce the cost of certification. And one thing that's been looked at is trying to, what we call, unlock co-benefits. We know that especially when it comes to our emerging farmers or small-scale farmers, that often the auditor is the only source of extension that they get in any given year. How can we use the audit as a process to build capacity, to provide other services. And in the case of Flow, for example, they're looking to see, well, couldn't they, during the course of their audit, couldn't their auditors be trained to deliver product carbon footprinting services? The other big issue is around how to ensure auditor consistency. And this relates to consistency of audit reports, transparency, complaint mechanisms, auditor training, auditor qualifications, and auditor competence. The next big issue is really looking at our assurance model and asking is it really fit for purpose? What is the level of risk assurance that the market is asking for? In all cases, is independent third-party certification absolutely necessary? Can we have different models? A lot of technical issues are being put on the table. The issue of sampling, for example, with the mathematical approaches that are being used, are they the best approaches? What are the options? Another big issue that's coming up is how to do auditing in conflict and disaster areas. And this is particularly topical at the moment in the case of Côte d'Ivoire with the cocoa exports. Lots of our members are certify farmers in that area. What do they do? They can't have access to the farmers. How do you deal with auditing in this situation? At the moment, after looking at some of the issues that our members have raised, we've now, as part of our transparency and openness process, developed a survey. And, this asks people to identify what they consider as critical issues. It's available online, and I encourage all of you to be part of it. You can find the link on our website. And if you struggle to get hold of it, please, drop me a line. I'm very easy to contact. So that's my presentation. Thank you.